All right, here we... I gotta go to the bathroom now. I'll go later. Welcome back, everybody. This is Out of Bounds with your host, Danell Leyva. I figured out how to play the music while I'm recording, so now I can hear it. I can hear the music now. I'm so excited. I don't know how many times I started recording over the music, and I was just like messing myself up, more so messing up the music. But I fixed it. Everything's good. Everything's good. We did it, and here we are, episode 5 of the podcast, Out of Bounds. I don't have my notes pulled up because I do want to talk about something very important today. Mode off. I'm just turning the AC off just in case it decides to go for 3 hours. Well, welcome back, Oh my God. Why am I doing this? I'm so bad at this. I'm doing so bad. Whatever. Do you guys like my hair? I did this thing. This is the first time my hair has ever been long enough for it to be in a tiny little tail, in a tiny little genie tail. I have so many bobby pins in my hair right now. So many. My goodness. Because it's long enough where a good clump of it is in the ponytail, but then other parts of it, other bits of it are not long enough. Who cares? Who cares? I want to talk about something important today. Did I say that already? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Here we go. I'm starting the podcast now. Bring that music back in. I'm kidding. Cut it. Okay. We're back. Everything's fine. I'm a professional. Today I actually want to talk about body struggles. Especially body struggles I don't want to generalize and say body struggles that men have, because I don't know. I know about my body struggles, and a lot of people may be thinking like, "Hey man, what are you talking about? You have a great body." To them I say thank you, but also I don't believe you. And here's why. So growing up and throughout my entire career, I never, ever thought about what my body looked like. I just didn't. I had the immense privilege of being a male in a sport where they don't care about what your body looks like as much as if you were a female. Granted, that does happen in every aspect in life, but more so in gymnastics, they didn't really care too much. Like, they do care in certain aspects for sure. They care because they talk about if you're too big and bulky, you're not going to look as clean and as, what's the word they like to use? I think graceful is the word, or I also think just fluid is the other word that they try and use. They say that people who are too big tend to be just like really tight. And, sometimes, yeah, it's true, but then sometimes it's not true. Because, look at Jordan Jovchev. He was like one of the strongest gymnasts, period. And he was pretty bulky, kind of. In one point of his career, he was fairly bulky, and he was very fluid and very clean and whatever. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Here we go. My God. I'm not having a good day with this podcast today. Okay, here we go. Let's try again. Let's try that again. Oh my goodness. Body struggles. For me, growing up, I never had to really worry about my body. Once I got a little older, I did have some teammates that were very much into like everything that they ate and making sure that, they only ate a specific amount and that they only ate very specific kinds of food. And I think growing up Hispanic, I didn't have to really worry about that because the kind of food that I would eat was relatively healthy in a way. Everything was kind of like homemade, or if not, like I would find restaurants that were homemade. Like Miami was really good about that. They were really good about having like really good restaurants that were like relatively clean and, you know, relatively quick. And I was able to eat proper food that served my training. But then after, as soon as I retired, for like that first year, I was like doing like a lot of, you know, like weights and stuff like that, just because I wanted to like get like, you know, more volume and stuff like that. And then I hurt my wrist, and then I really couldn't do anything for a solid year. Like I couldn't even like pick up a cup with my hand. God, that's so loud. I couldn't even pick up a cup with my hand because my wrist was so messed up, right? And because of that, obviously, I couldn't really do any exercises, you know? And so I lost a lot of muscle mass. And then after that, on top of all of that, I am now in this industry, in this world where it is very much vanity driven in some sort of way. You know, like a lot of times it's really not. A lot of times, you know, the entertainment industry doesn't care at all what you look like, but then a lot of times it does, you know, and it's just how you play the game, right? And so I kind of find myself having these constant internal battles and these constant conflicts within myself that I think like, okay, maybe I should stay the way I am because, you know, I have a lot of these people saying that if I get too big and too bulky, I'll only be cast as one kind of role and I'll only be like the one kind of actor or whatever. And to them, honestly, I mean, yeah, like that does make a lot of sense. It makes sense to them. It makes sense to me. But then it's at the same time, it's almost like I see pictures of myself from like 4 years ago and I'm like, I do not look like that at all. And it makes me feel some kind of way. You know, it makes me feel some kind of way because I feel like I'm like, damn, like, what happened? You know, like, what happened to me? Like, why don't I look like that anymore? I mean, I know why. It's because I don't train 7 days a week, literally. You know, when I was training for the Olympics, especially the last year of my training, I was going in literally 7 days a week. Like Sundays, I wouldn't really have a full training session, but I would go in, he said. My goodness. I would go in on Sunday. There you go. That's how you speak. I would go in on Sunday and I would do like maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours where I would stretch. I would do light conditioning. I would just like keep my body moving because I realized that was what was helping my process, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not what I'm talking about. But anyways, I was training 7 days a week. And then the other, one of the 7 days a week was a light, you know, it was the lighter day. But then the rest of the days I was like really intense. So like, of course my body was like, you know. But it's crazy because at that point I was not thinking about like the actual vanity of it. I was thinking about the functionality of it. I actually wasn't thinking about it at all. Honestly, I was just thinking about like, okay, like what can I do to make myself stronger? How can I make this release move on the high bar go higher? How can I go quicker on the floor or whatever? How can I build up more resistance? That's what I was thinking about. But now I don't have to worry about falling on my face at the end of a floor routine. I have to worry about, do I look as cut as Matthew McConaughey? And I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's my impromptu producer to this podcast. His name is Brian. And we were talking about how a lot of men struggle with that, especially a lot of men. And like people just don't really talk about it because we already know that society holds women to a certain standard that is just beyond ridiculous. You know what I mean? They expect women to look a certain way, and there's really only like an incredibly small percentage of women that actually look that way naturally. And then and then there's obviously the bigger percentage of people who do a lot of things to make themselves look how society expects women to look. But then for men, nobody ever really talks about it. You know, of course, it's expected because men aren't allowed to talk about their feelings. Regardless of the point, I'm not trying to say that we men have it really hard with our body struggles. I know. Let's not hold women to a stupid, ridiculous standard. But also, I am a guy, and I have been realizing that a lot of times I talk to more and more men. They tell me the same thing about how they're so worried about their bodies. And it's just the language is different. It's slightly different than how women talk about it. Like the way that men talk about it is like, it's a little different. You can still tell that there's some struggle. You can still tell that there's like a lot of thought going into it. Like I know if a guy is a little bit too skinny, because this is what I'm thinking. This is like what's going on in my head. If I look at myself in the mirror and I see myself too skinny, I'm like, man, I'm such a weakling. Oh man, like I can't do anything. I look so unintimidating. Because society tells us that we're supposed to be intimidating, we're supposed to be strong always, no matter what. But there's so many different ways to be strong. But I mean, especially as an athlete, like that's like on my mind quite a lot. And in this industry that I'm in right now, like as an actor, I'm always, again, like I repeat myself in the sense that I'm always at this like internal conflict of like, do I want to be bigger or not? Because I am relatively small. I'm not relatively small. I'm a short dude. I look taller on camera because I have long arms and whatever, but I'm only like 5'7", 5'8", 5'7". But if I'm this small and I get really big, I'm going to look even smaller, right? That's supposedly what a lot of people have said. Although when I was competing and I was bigger, I didn't look small. So it's like, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? And then not obviously, but then, of course, for me, because I come from a background of doing a sport that is it has so much variety in it, whenever I try and go in and only do like weights, I get so bored. I get so bored of doing the same things, you know what I mean? But then, okay, like the other day I was watching this like CrossFit documentary. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's just really interesting to see how insane these people can be, and like how my goodness, it's too much. CrossFit guys, relax. Also, maybe don't say that you guys are doing gymnastics. You know what I mean? We love you. I love CrossFit. I actually want to start doing CrossFit because I feel that was where my point was. Sorry, ADHD. My point is, doing regular workouts as far as like actually just lifting weights like that, especially when I have to do it alone, is really hard because I get really bored really quickly. But then like going rock climbing, playing soccer, doing some boxing or like combat sort of training, that's so fun to me. But like, unfortunately, all of those things cost money. Oh, except soccer. You can find certain places where you can play soccer when it's like relatively free. But it's still, it's kind of still out of the way. And what was my point? Where was I going with it? I wanted to start CrossFit because I feel like CrossFit is the one place where I probably will get fairly big relatively quickly, and I won't get bored of it. You know what I mean? Because it's like kind of like a constant changing thing. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to push myself further than what I think. I say that now, but I'm so competitive, I might push myself. But then also I might not. Just because my body is so broken. I don't want to like hurt myself more than what I'm already hurt, right? So I just need to find a gym where, the people are like, hey man, yeah, just you do your thing. We're gonna be over here lifting 7,000 pounds over our head and running a mile, but you do your thing. You do your thing. Here's the workout. God, those CrossFit people are crazy, man. The ones that are like fully dedicated to it and like that's like all they do. My goodness. It's almost like, honestly, in a way, it's almost like they're kind of a decathlete, right? Like a decathlete, they do so many different, but they're just so much bigger than them, dude. Dude, like one of their arms is like bigger than my head, and that's not saying much because I have a small head. But let's say one of their arms is like about as big as my leg, and that's saying something because I'm proud of my legs, and you know what I mean? Yeah, man. So that's like kind of one of the things that I've been thinking about quite a bit. Body struggles, Guys, we should talk about it more. Guys, we should talk about it more. Because I feel like we don't talk about it enough. And I feel like it's a very real thing that, we struggle with. And we just kind of keep it to ourselves because we do that we do that with a lot of things. Okay, I'm going to do a new segment. I'm introducing a new segment starting this week. I I decided to put out very, very poorly planned, because that's just how I do things apparently. I'm gonna be better. I promise, guys. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start planning ahead. I'm gonna start doing things the right way, and I feel like the entire podcast is just gonna be me with my hand on my head, just being disappointed in myself. Anyways, I want to start doing Twitter questions. Okay, so please, on Mondays and Thursdays, I'm gonna send out a reminder, but please ask me questions, and I'm gonna respond to them on this podcast today, because I literally put out this tweet like maybe 10 minutes before I started. It would be 10 minutes before I started recording this. I only got one question, and it's my dude. Like, I don't know what his actual name is, because it's a clothing brand Twitter account. It says Diamond in the Clothing. And his question is, would you want to play you in a movie based on your life? Young actor in flashbacks, 20, 30 years old for Olympics, and older actor. No, I wouldn't, and here's why. Because I don't have a very solid answer for that. But I would prefer to direct it, because that's like one of the things, because I do want to be a director, but I want to be a director like in the future, right? When I have a little more experience under my belt. And I also don't really want to make a movie about myself, because I don't know, it feels weird, you know what I mean? But I do want to, I've always wanted to make a movie about my mom's story, because her story is incredible. Those were all the Twitter questions for tonight, because I'm just an idiot, and I put that tweet out way too late. Hopefully for Tuesday's podcast, I'll have at least 5 Twitter questions. Thank you guys again for being here and for listening in, and for watching. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty proud of myself. I've been really consistent. Usually for these kinds of things, like it's a bit of a struggle for me to actually like sit down. But like especially in like these times where we're in right now, it's kind of. I'm gonna stop talking. Thank you guys for being here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and what's that called? The bell. Turn the bell on. I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye. I don't know.